Howdy everyone, this is Tricia and welcome to my channel. First, let me explain that I'm doing a voiceover my video because the audio in the original recording was numbed down by a fan I had going. I also failed to record some of the process of my project. This project took me a couple of weeks to do and I was eager to complete it, and I simply overlooked turning on my camera. Now, this does not mean the quilt took me 2 weeks to create. It simply means that I had other things that were going on and that I had to take care of. So I did this in the days that I was able to do it. Today I will show you how I put together this baby quilt. I hope it will be a keepsake for my niece as she is having her second baby. I have chosen to make pinwheel blocks for this pattern. If you'd like to follow along, then please watch my video and let's get to sewing. Let me introduce you to the fabrics. I have 8 quarters of fabric here, meaning each is a 1/4 yard, and I feel this is enough to complete my quilt. You don't have to choose 8 fabrics as long as you have 2 yards of quilter's cotton in any combination you like. This quilt is the overall size of 33.5 inches by 33.5 inches. My niece has chosen mint and sage greens for her nursery, and this is why I picked these fabric combinations. I also have 1 yard of fabric I felt was super soft for the opposite or backside of the quilt. I did also purchase a satin blanket binding, which I ended up not using in my haste to finish this quilt in time for the baby shower. I already have this pack of quilter's batting for the insert of the quilt. It is queen size, but I will cut a piece from this to fit the overall size of my quilt. Of course, I'm also using thread to sew my quilt. First, I start out by squaring all my 1/4 fabrics. I want to make sure there is 9 inches all the way down the strip of fabric. So I am aligning the 1/4 strip within the 9 inches, and then I will trim off the edges if needed. I will then cut the 9-inch strips into 2 strips, measuring 4.5 inches all the way down. Next, I trim off the raw edge or the fabric edge so I can then start cutting 4.5-inch squares, meaning they will be measuring at 4.5 by 4.5 inches. I repeat this with all the quarters to get 16 squares from each for a total of 128 squares. All right, now that I've cut all my 128 squares, I am now going to pair them off. So again, I have 8 fabrics. That means I will have 4 pairs. So just pair them off however you like. These are the combinations that I've decided to use. All right, so now I'm going to start with my first paired up fabrics. I will repeat the same with the other 3 pairs. So grab 1 of each fabric squares and place them with the right sides facing each other. Of course, you want to do this with all of your little squares. Now I take each pair and align them at an angle from corner to corner. I am using a straight edge here so that then I can mark a line from one corner to the other corner using a tailor's pencil. Now you want to make sure that then you pin your squares so that they don't move. And you're only going to mark one center line. You do not have to do another one going across, just the one. All right, so here I have a stack of already pinned squares and they've been marked down the center. So next I want to go ahead and put them on my sewing machine, and I am going to sew from the center a 1/4 inch over on each side. So I'm not sewing down the center line, but a 1/4 inch on each side of that. So here I'm going down one side and I'm going to double stitch, back stitch there and at the start to make sure these don't come undone. Okay, so now I'm turning it over. And now I'm going to stitch on the other side of that center line that I drew. Again, 1/4 inch. And of course, I'm going to repeat that for all of my squares. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to take these and I'm going to go ahead and cut down on the center line with my rotary cutter to create 2 blocks. And I'll open this up and this will be 1 block. As you see there, 2 triangles. And I'm going to repeat that again for every one of them. All right, so here I am just doing some trimming so that you can see how I did that. Just cut straight on down the center. Now I'm going to iron them, and what I'm doing here is I am just ironing the seam that I did just to kind of seal it in, and just of course repeating. I'm now going to open up every one of my little squares now that are been cut, and I'm going to iron down the seam on the inside or the center so that I have one little flat square. And of course you can turn it around and open up that seam on the inside, which is kind of basically what you should do. And I'm going to be honest, I started doing that, but I didn't do it for all of them. I really just wanted to finish this quilt. And there I am pressing those down nice and flat. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim off these little bits that you see on the edges. So I'm just sealing it one more time by ironing it down. And I'm going to take my little scissors and cut off those little edges there that you see popping out, just so I can have a nice squared off corner on every one of my little squares. This is kind of a repetitive thing, but if you leave them in there, once you sew everything together, you have a lot of bulk because there's a lot of fabric there. So you want to trim those off. If you don't open them up, the seams, and iron them, at least, you know, flatten them down, and then you'll have just cut the little, what I call little dog ears off. So now what I want to do is I want to take all my little squares and I want to square them off. So I'm taking this little template. This is a 4.5 by 4.5, and I'm going to use the inside measurement in this template, and that's 4 by 4 inches, and that is what I'm going to square off all of my little squares with. Now I've already done some here, and I'm going to continue. And so I take my template, and if you notice on the template, it's got these angled lines here, and I want to use that center line that you see right there. And I'm going to line that with a center line on my squares. And that'll help me to make sure that these little squares are actually squared off. All right, so there I am aligning it and making sure the edges are also aligned on one side. If not, I will have to trim them. And as you can see on one side, they are not aligned. So that's what I'm going to trim off, okay? Here we are, just trimming off those little edges. And I'm turning it around and I'm aligning my center line again with the center line of the square, so I can trim off that other little edge. And there we go. And this is making sure that everything is 4 by 4 and that center line is going right down the center. So I'll repeat that with all my other squares. All right, so I've completed that with all of my little squares on my pairs, cut them up, iron them, and so forth. All right, so I've chosen to start off with this particular pairs. I'm going to take 4 of them, and I'm just going to line them. I'm trying to line them the way that I want, but I decided, you know, I'm just going to place them down, and then I'll turn them to form that pinwheel design. So as you can see, they're not a pinwheel design right there. So I am just turning them so that I have opposite fabrics facing each other, just like so. And there we go. I've got the pinwheel design that I want there. As you can see there, I've got opposites facing each other, and here, and here, and here. Of course, I also want the center where they're sewn to be going down, pointing towards each other. That's a very helpful hint on how to align these so they form that pinwheel design. All right, so here I have my little squares again. We're going to go ahead and start sewing them. And of course, we're going to repeat that for every one of these. So I'm going to take the top 2, put them face to face or the right sides together. And of course, I'm going to pin that so that I remember where I'm going to sew, just in case they get turned around in some way. And of course, I do that with the other one as well. Pin them together, and we take them to the sewing machine. Of course, we're going to iron them afterwards too. Pop them open. All right, here we go. We're doing a 1/4 inch seam on all of these. Backstitch when you get started and backstitch when you end it. And then I just leave that first pair in there, grab my second one. Don't forget where I pinned them. I just want to align them a little bit better there. Those little corner seams, I want to match them up. Again, 1/4 inch seam. And we'll finish this off. Take them over to iron them. And then we're going to put these 2 blocks together. All right, here we go. Put them facing right sides together. Make sure those little corners all meet up. That's where you want to sew them. 1/4 inch seam once again. And I'm just being careful because right there, it gets a little thick right there with all the seams. So just carefully go over that, backstitch to finish it off. And then of course we're gonna take this over and iron it once again. So there is our pinwheel block. All right, everyone. So this is where we're going to pick up. So basically I took all of my blocks. I did all of them, ironed everything. So then I put them on the table and I decided that I would make a pattern. Just choose however you want to place them. So my pattern consisted of putting 5 blocks going down in a row and then across 5 blocks. So altogether I had 25 of these pinwheel blocks. So I took one row and I started with the first block, sewed it to the second, and then the second to the third, and so forth and so on until I had 5. And then once I had 5, I did the others. So then I had 5 rows of 5. So then I took each of those rows, put those together facing each side, front sides or the right sides together, sewed them, and then therefore I finished up the 5 rows. And of course I ironed between every time I did a seam, and it was a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. And as you can see here, I've already pinned it where I've got the back of the fabric on there. What I did is I cut the quilter's batting to the size of the front once it was all put together. And then I cut the back just a little bit bigger so that I could fold it over. And it was about 1.5 inches bigger on each, side. So altogether, the blanket, the backing was 3 inches longer, 3 inches wider. All right, so then what I did is I then pinned it. So I'm going to show you here where it is, the back is 1.5 inches longer. So what I do is I just fold it over just once like that, and then again so that it's over the front. Okay, we're going to do this all the way down, all the way around. And of course I am going to pin, and then I can go ahead and sew that. And then I do the corners, and I'll show you how I did these corners. It's super easy. You don't have to do it that way. You can figure out another way, but I'll show you how I did that. All right, so I have my blanket here nice and flat so that I can do the little corners. Again, you're going to fold in once and then one more time the edge there. Make sure it's over the front and pin that to place. You want to pin it quite closely as you're folding it over. And of course, it's not going to be already sewn. Mine is already, I had already started it, but this is the way that I was doing it. So now get the other side, and we're going to fold in those little corners. Fold in once. There we go. And then we're going to fold one more time to go over the front of our little blanket, or the quilted, or rather the blocks. There we go. Pin it as close as you can to that corner. We'll put lots of little lots of little pins in this area. And then of course one over here. Sometimes the little corners get undone. You got to fold things back in there. But anyway, I take it and I kind of like pinch it and bring that little lip like that. See how it's kind of getting folded. So I just kind of poke those little folds back in there. It's a little bit, tricky. Sometimes it doesn't go all nice and straight, but you can figure it out. But so first pin one side. Okay, let me fix this one more time. Pinch it down, and there we go. Pinch it down. And then I'll go ahead and put a little pin on that side to hold that little corner down of my corner. And then I'll go ahead and do the same on the other side. That's not very pretty. I went ahead and I fixed this, but this is what you want. You're going to sew down and go up and then down and then across and continue finishing your whole quilt. And of course, when you come to every corner, you repeat that. All right, so here I am finishing up. I am just sewing down like I said I was going to do. You want to use a lot of pins, like I said, and get this all pinned down really well. And of course, you'll remove the pins as you make your way around the blanket. And sometimes I even use the pins to kind of like help push the fabric in and make sure I got a nice little corner there. So I'm just going down to the little corner, like I said I would. And then I'm just lifting up my foot, twisting it, or turning it, putting my foot down, sewing that little bit. And I do a little back stitch there just because I want to make sure I grab that little corner really well, little point there. And I'm using the pin again to move my fabric, under the fold. And there we go. Now we can lift the foot up again and stitch and remove the pins as we go along. Now I also put the label there. As you can see in the little corner, I have my own little labels that I had made and I ordered them from Amazon. They say custom made with love by Tricia Flores. So this is a custom made quilt, like I mentioned before, for my niece. And I was going to use a binding to finish this off, but as you can see, I didn't use it because of my time. I really wanted to get this done. So let's go ahead and spread this little blanket out and see what it finally looks like. And here is the finished blanket. There's my label. I am so happy with this. I think it came out really pretty. I don't know if you noticed that the pattern, the blocks that are alike kind of go in a row in diagonals. That was intentional when I was putting the blocks together. I wish I had thought to record that. I'm really sorry. But anyway, I really enjoyed doing this. All right, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a big old thumbs up. And I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up and leave a kind comment down below. And let me know what you thought of my project for this week. I hope my niece will enjoy it and she'll have this as a keepsake or heirloom. And it's really basically just a little decorative blanket she can put anywhere in the nursery, or maybe put in the car seat or in a carrier or stroller. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel, and that you have a beautiful week. And of course, as always, enjoy.